Hey everyone, my name is Randy Lee and I'm an environmental engineer. It's been a while since my last post because I was busy studying for my professional engineering exam, but I want to finish what I started. In my last video, I talked about the pros and cons of working in the public sector. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of working in the private sector. So let's get started talking about the advantages. So one of the most significant advantages of working in the private sector is the potential for higher salaries and bonuses. Private companies often offer competitive compensation packages, including like performance-based incentives, profit sharing, stock options, which overall provides greater financial rewards for like top performers. Companies, for example, like Google, Microsoft, all those big brand companies that you hear about where people make like $500,000 after just like graduating with their bachelor's degree. It's like the dream job for most fresh graduates. You no longer have to worry about hitting that like prestigious six-figure salary when immediately you're making like $200,000 a year. And the company pays you generously with like free lunches, free company merchandise, gigantic signing bonuses, maybe like $1,000 retirement matching, unlimited PTO, like you name it. I know what I listed were just like technology companies, but the same concept applies to environmental related companies. Working as a private consultant, for example, pays way more than like the initial government entry-level position. That's because though most are fast-paced and require a lot of initial work to begin with, so if you're into that, then the private company is like the route for you. The second advantage is that there's more innovative projects and technologies. So private companies are known for their innovation and agility to adopt new technologies and different approaches. Environmental engineers in the private sector have the opportunity to work on cutting-edge projects, develop innovative solutions, and collaborate with industrial leaders to address complex environmental challenges. So private companies typically have the money to purchase the latest technology. That way they can develop and use that technology to be like one step ahead of regulations or increase their sales and efficiency. That's different from government jobs, which usually always use outdated technologies or just are very slow to adopt them. Regulations take years to implement anyway, so you're basically looking at like a 5 to 10 year old lag period in technology when you're looking at like the government work. And since private companies, they like to compete with each other, normally the one private company that uses the latest technology would always be the better one. So they'll be the one who's attracting new employees, and they'll always outcompete the other businesses because they're the ones using the best technology. And third is that private sector roles offer a wide range of career paths and specializations in environmental engineering. From like consulting firms to environmental technology startups, there are opportunities to explore different industries, sectors, and project types, allowing for better career growth and diversification. Meanwhile, on the other hand, most government jobs are pretty stable, predictable, and like static. So that one government position that you saw that was open, it will probably be open for the next 20 years doing the same thing. They rarely get rid of government positions, and they're often very slow to open new roles and probably will never close government positions. But this could be a double-edged sword because private sectors can come and go. You can find like a startup company that needs lots of employees, but when like the economy gets really bad, that position may close and you just might get laid off. There are a lot more government jobs in the private sector in environmental engineering than government jobs because of the fact that there are always new engineering problems. So within the next 5 to 10 years, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some catastrophic environmental disaster, but there will be some startup business that will generate a solution for that disaster. And that's where people with specializations can actually easily join that startup company. All right, now that you know about the advantages, let's talk about the disadvantages of working in the private sector. The first one is that there's pressure to meet profit goals. So working in the private sector often comes with pressure to meet these goals and client expectations. You have tight deadlines, demanding clients, and really competitive markets that can create a high stress environment requiring environmental engineers to balance between like project delivery with financial objectives. So as mentioned earlier, although startups may pay higher, it comes with a lot of stress. So say for example, you want to implement the newest technology as quickly as possible. In order for you to do that, you'll be working like long hours just to get the job done. And if you don't get it done as soon as possible, and you're not meeting like deadline expectations, you may get in trouble. You can get fired. That's where the high risk, high reward comes in. The second disadvantage is a lack of job stability. So unlike the public sector, job security in the private sector can be less certain, especially during like economic downturns or company restructuring. You have things like layoffs, mergers, and business closures, which are like common risk, requiring individuals to stay agile and adaptive to their careers. Be careful with this because company loyalty is pretty much dead in my opinion. Government jobs are nice because they have things like unions and most of the work is pretty slow anyway. So just piggybacking off of the first point, if you're not performing well, then you can get laid off. Or if the economy is bad, for whatever reason, the entire company can actually go. In good times, you may not be even thinking about this because everything is booming, but when the economy is rough like it is today, not even the environmental jobs are safe. And lastly, the third is that there are ethical dilemmas. In private sector, environmental engineers may face some ethical dilemmas related to conflicts of interest, corporate interests conflicting with environmental stewardship, or just pressure to prioritize profit over sustainability. Balancing professional integrity with company objectives could be challenging with these situations. This is where money and politics come into play. Ethical dilemmas appear because, say, you're a consultant, you could probably just change a few numbers to give what the customer wants. Surprisingly, bribery is a real thing, and it doesn't affect just the private sector. It also affects government jobs. But it is much more difficult to do so because you're always under surveillance for like the government jobs. In the private sector though, it's there and it's more readily available. Corporate greed and ethical issues may go against you. For example, let's look at like a big oil and gas company. You know polluting air and water is bad for you, and we should be switching to like a more reliable energy source, regardless of whether or not you believe in climate change. It's just more efficient to use like clean alternative energy, right? But think about, why are we still using the dirty, limited source of energy like fossil fuels? It's because of money and because they can. Obviously, we can switch to alternative energies since we've proven that we can and it works. It's just not popular yet because they can't really make money off of that compared to fossil fuels. Like fossil fuels, you can make a lot of money. Alternatives, you probably are losing money if you switch to it. So they're not going to switch to something that's not profitable. With that being said, in that little hypothetical situation, let's make it more realistic. Let's say you're a recently hired newbie environmental engineer working at an oil company and you have bills to pay, right? Would you really fight against this? Probably not. You're not going to stand out and say, hey, you should switch to alternative energy and lose money for the company when you yourself have bills to pay. You sort of just deal with it because what can you do really? They'll fire you if you say anything and you don't want to be homeless, right? Alright, so in conclusion, whether you choose to work in the public sector or the private sector as an environmental engineer, each offers unique opportunities and challenges. Consider your career goals, your values, and personal preference when making this type of decision. Ultimately, finding the right balance between like stability and like financial reward, job satisfaction, and the impact on society is really the key in finding a fulfilling career in this field. So that's all I have for this video. Thanks for tuning in today and sticking until the very end and being patient with me while I was studying for this PE exam. If you found this video helpful, just be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.